Hi, sisters. Welcome to the New Paradigm. I'm Sybil Buck, and I wanted to offer an integration. I use integration almost every day because life is a lot, sometimes, maybe all the time. A lot of stimulation, a lot of input, and so a lot of processing has to go on. We are processors. We eat food and turn it into food for other beings. We breathe oxygen and turn it into something plants can breathe. And we process impressions and turn it into our output, our expression, which inspires and nourishes the world. It's our way of taking the prima materia, what is just uniquely our experience, and creating something that we can share with our community and with the world. So to me, integration is coming coming all together in one place with all the parts of myself and all of what I can feel about the world around me, landing there with how it is and who I find myself to be, which creates a portal that seems to connect me to the infinite source that inspires me and nourishes me every day. So I want to offer this simple practice of integration for you sisters to help you also access that portal to infinite source energy, especially after something as diverse and interesting and maybe new as the Spirit Weavers gathering, the virtual weave, might have been for you. A lot of the nourishment actually will come to you almost like the shavasana at the end of yoga. A lot of the nourishment of your virtual weave might come to you just in letting yourself feel what's moving in you afterward. So, a couple of things up front. One is that we'll be sort of exiting the more human part of the brain that's there in the just behind the forehead part, and we'll be landing deeper in the brain, in the limbic system. That's more the mammal part of the brain. And that part of your brain doesn't speak words. So, in order to invite it to be here with us, gather things that delight your senses. By that, I mean maybe it's a stick of incense that you love. This is one of my favorites. It's called aloes wood. Or maybe you have some essential oils that you love the smell of. Or it could be a beautiful blossom from your garden that you bring into the room when you're going to practice, or an element like copper. I love sometimes lying with these copper balls in my hands. Something about that feeling is compelling to my body, to my senses. It could be a piece of fabric, something that you wear or you drape over your eyes that's soft, or you just love the texture of it. And definitely it means gathering soft, cozy surfaces to snuggle up in. And I did notice a couple of my sisters who I know and love hop on, and I just want to say that I'm so grateful for the platform of Spirit Weavers and the way it has connected me with so many incredible, beautiful women from around the world who maintain, with whom I maintain connection and sisterhood, even when the weave isn't going on. So, what a profound effect the weave has had on my life, and I'm so grateful. I always set up kind of like this. Um, I put down something soft and cozy on the floor. I'm sitting on the soft, cozy floor covering. And then I have something low behind my back, under my back. This is a bamboo memory foam pillow with a fleece on top, just a couple of inches tall. Or if you don't have that, you can use a folded blanket. That makes just about the right height for support under your spine. Whatever you have that's a couple of inches tall, could be a bed pillow might work, but you'd like it to not be bulging in the middle and then tapered at the ends. Should be relatively flat. You put that under your spine. And that's because we all have an arch in the lumbar spine, and this will help catch that. And when you lie down, whatever's under your legs, pull it in close so it's right up against the backs of your legs. And then when you're resting your head, you'll notice there's a curve in the back of the neck. That's the cervical curve. And you want to fill that in with not too much pillow. For me, again, that sort of folded blanket height of a few inches with the rounded edge toward my neck is just perfect. And then I lift the edges so it makes a kind of nest. And that way my head doesn't feel like it's going to roll side to side either way. As you're settling into whatever you set up, give your body a moment. Ask it, how is this for you? And give it a moment to respond. I just pulled this pillow into the back crease of my knees because my body was saying it wanted support there. And in every single little inch of your body, if it's not touching something underneath it, it might want you to put support, maybe even under the hand or under the wrists where they lift off the floor. And this is a way of speaking to your nervous system. You're speaking in the language of the nonverbal parts of you that are always trying to discern if you're safe or not. When the body feels totally supported from underneath, it starts to feel more safe. And at the point where your body lets you know that it's comfortable enough and it doesn't need you to do anything else to make it better, have a big breath in through your nose and let it out through your mouth in a long, slow, soft, tapered exhale. And then have about 10 breaths like that. The inhale is not important. However you breathe in is fine. And then out through your mouth, long, slow, tapered, patient exhales, letting your body feel almost like a deflating air mattress every time you exhale. You're tuning into the way the exhale connects you to gravity, helps you land right where you are. And this is both because, very literally, your body does deflate and move toward the earth when you exhale, but it's also because the exhales stimulate the relaxation response or the parasympathetic nervous system, the part of your nervous system or the setting of your nervous system that's for healing, for cleansing, for resting and digesting, for regenerating. And this is very physiologically true. As your body senses that you're safe, which it does every time you have a long, slow, conscious exhale, and in every way that you're now softening all of your muscles to receive the support from under you, you're communicating to your body that it's in a safe place. And you might even use words and tell your whole being that this is a safe place and it's a good time to let down all the ways that you hold yourself up and hold yourself together and avoid things that seem overwhelming and filter reality. And as you're letting in more of the moment, practice letting in all sounds, anything you can hear where you are, maybe especially things that you were avoiding hearing, things that you were filtering out that you felt were distracting or you wish weren't there, maybe voices from another room or construction sounds or traffic, an engine, maybe the sound of the refrigerator, whatever seemed out of place. Allow it back into this very full spectrum soundscape that is always wherever you are. Even if you're in a quiet place, you'll notice there are high-pitched sounds and low-pitched sounds. And as you let in all the frequencies that you can hear, also notice the directions they're coming from. In other words, open to that 360-degree in every direction, vibrational information that's coming to you. It's a way that life is communicating with you. It's a way that life is weaving you into its web, these threads of sound coming from every direction, some of which very literally pass through your body, weaving you into the only place you can be, which is right where you are. And you might notice if your thoughts have you traveling forward and back in time, maybe traveling up and down your to-do list, or visiting a conversation that triggered you, or a deadline that's looming in the distance. And if any of those kinds of thoughts are persistent today, you might just ask yourself, when you think that thought that carries you out of the moment, where do you feel something in your body right now? And this is a way of catching yourself while your thoughts are inviting you to leave the moment. Your body's inviting you to land back where you are. So, whenever you notice that you're caught up in a thought, don't worry about how long you were thinking it or why you lost your focus on the moment or how long. I already said that. Don't worry about any of that. Just come right back to sensation by asking yourself if, when you think that thought, there's a corresponding feeling in your body. And then just tune into the qualities of whatever sensation you might notice in your body. Is it hot or cold or sharp or dull? And while you're feeling whatever's there to feel in your body, be aware of sound everywhere. And notice that they're sort of similar. The landscape of feelings inside of you and the movement of sounds outside of you, they share the fact that they're always in motion, that whatever's there is ever unfolding. The sounds turn from this sound to the next sound fluidly. And if you watch them, so do your feelings. Turn from this feeling to the next feeling fluidly. And we become just someone to be here with the body while it's processing all of what it feels. Anytime you're feeling impatient or anxious, come back to the exhale through your mouth. If the inner critic comes in to say you should be doing something productive with your time, exhale through your mouth and feel the effect of gravity that carries you toward the earth like a hug from your great Mama Earth. Feel that gravity is an embrace of this body that's with you for the whole of your lifetime and who is a child of the earth. As Ram Dass said, the body is just something you picked up off the earth to wear for this lifetime, and you'll put it back when you leave. And the whole time you're communing with this body, the earth is still reaching for her child with that embrace of gravity. And because you're so closely linked to the body, you can feel that hug. And like a child, you can let yourself soften into that hug, that nurturing hug. We all, just like kids, have that tendency to pull away from the hug. No, mom, not now. I have things to do, running off to play or to work. But just like children, as adults, every once in a while, and for me, it's once a day at least, I need to surrender to this embrace, not just to sleep, but to really feel the support that I'm not alone holding myself up, but that no matter where I am, I'm being held up by the earth under me. And when I practice this regenerative integration, I'm really practicing letting myself be held. I'm practicing receiving support and nourishment Just getting out of the way with all that sharp intellect, my ways of planning and thinking and analyzing, so that I can land in this more mammal experience of just being. You might think of your dog or your cat or your horse or your goat or your cow or whatever mammal friend you might have, and how they feel the moment. Their nostrils flaring, taking in how it smells, the eyes taking in light, the ears perking up at sound. They don't know another way to be aside from right in the moment. And all the information coming through your senses is vital information. None of it is irrelevant. So notice if you might have been avoiding feeling anything. You might have been avoiding, maybe it's a sound, or maybe it's a feeling inside of you. Often we have feelings that we think of as dark or not the good feelings that we want, and we might just try to avoid feeling them. But they don't go away like that. Feelings go away more like food on a plate. They go away when they're done, when they've been processed. And when we avoid feeling what's there to feel, it's kind of like sitting there looking at the food on the plate, or maybe trying not to look at the food on the plate, wishing it would just go away. But there's nutrient for us in no matter what feelings we may discover are there to be felt. This is part of how we grow. And you may know that you're in the process of healing from something. Could be physical. You may be healing from an injury or an accident or a surgery or anything, a heartbreak, a loss. And if so, you can call extra healing attention to wherever you're healing. If it's a body part or an energy center, you can train your attention right on that area. And as you breathe in so slowly, just really patiently and slowly, almost as if you're not doing the breathing, you're just allowing yourself to be breathed. And as you let that life force that rides on the breath come in through your nostrils, imagine the oxygen and the magic that rides on the breath reaching the very part of you that needs healing. Imagine a glow of light, like an embrace, like a hug around that part of you that needs healing. So even if you're focused on healing, you can still let yourself feel whatever let you know you needed healing. That underlying feeling that could be pain, or it could be just something that's a little off, or it could be a feeling of a void, a hollow, something missing. Whatever the feeling is, even if it eludes words, even if you can't describe it, expand your tolerance just to feel it. And this is integration. When we separate ourselves from reality because we don't want to feel what's there, that's the root of suffering. And if we just open, let ourselves have the sensations that are there, we weave ourselves back into a wholeness. And it's the wholeness that's actually so healing. So, one more time, you might have a big breath in and let it out through your mouth. And really feel yourself landed right where you are, open to everything just as it is. And if there's anything new, some information, or it could have been something someone said that you'd never heard before, you might not have agreed with it, or it might have even troubled you, a different perspective by gathering with women from all around the world through the virtual weave, we may have experienced something new. We may have felt a sensation that we couldn't put our finger on. We might have felt a part of something that we had never felt a part of before. Or we might have felt apart from something in a way we didn't understand. So, specifically, just feel around inside of you for something new, anything new. And just know that even if it's not sitting well yet, if it's not feeling like a cohesive part of the fabric of you, that doesn't mean it's that you can't integrate it. You don't have to understand it to integrate it. You can just notice where you feel it. And at some point, lying in a supported shape with all these soft textures and whatever beauty you've invited into your space, whatever delight of smell or taste or color, you might feel like you don't want to move at all. And if that's true, I really encourage you to honor that. In my experience with this practice, which I've been practicing for about 6 years, and I really feel was the turning point in my own evolution, the one practice that helped me integrate the pieces I had previously been unable to integrate. When I'm doing processing, that's when my body asks me not to move. That's what I find. I'm in the middle of something. So the body's saying, oh no, wait, don't move. And if that's true, just listen to it and stay still until it will let you know when it wants to reanimate. But sometimes you might find that after just a little while, you have that craving for a slightly different shape. You might just feel like rolling to your side, maybe taking a pillow between your shins, rolling onto one of your hips. You might like to put a pillow behind you. This is one of my favorite positions for sleep, actually. One pillow between the shins, one pillow wedged between me and the wall behind me. I still have that layer of support underneath my waist and the side of my body. And then sometimes I want to puff up my pillow, the pillow that's under my head, a little bit more for this position. If I'm lying on my left hip, my right wrist might just drape over my right side of my waist. I find this a really supportive, nurturing, and comfortable position, especially when I can't find comfort on my back. Sometimes I just can't be comfortable on my back. When you bring your knees in closer to the belly in that semi-fetal shape, you send another message of safety because the psoas muscle there that connects your inner thighs to your spine was formed in this shape. And the psoas muscle was the first muscle ever formed in your body, and part of it turned into your heart. So when it comes back to the shape that it was formed in, it feels safe. It's relaxed. It has slack. And you might take a great big breath, no matter what shape you're in, into your belly. And when you exhale, focus on letting all the guts, all the organs in your belly soften. Sometimes I think of those organs like little water balloons. The spleen, the liver, the gallbladder, the intestines, the stomach, all of those organs of filtration and assimilation that are below the rib cage. all like little water balloons in a space together. And they sort of push up against each other every time you have a big breath. The little water balloons of your guts squeeze into squished shapes. And then when you exhale and your lungs get smaller, it creates a whole bunch of space for all of those internal organs, maybe a womb, a bladder, the intestines, the colon. Everything has space when you exhale. And when you consciously soften all of those little water balloons toward gravity on the exhale, that sends another message to your body that you're safe. When you're gripping in the guts and you kind of hold your guts in a static position, that rigidity tells your body you might not be safe. So make sure that the tide of your breath is washing your guts this way and that. All the viscera just soft, jostling against each other, massaging each other, squeezing out the old used up fluids, and like little sponges absorbing the new, freshly oxygenated blood and the freshly pumped lymphatic fluid. And every time you have a larger breath, you pump more lymph. The heart is the pump for the blood, and your breath is one of the main pumps for the lymph. Anytime in this practice or in your day that you're not sure what else to do, a big breath in through the nose and out through the mouth is always just a great, very portable, very accessible form of self care. Just a big breath in and out through the mouth is a way of self regulating, of turning down any anxiety that might be happening. I invite you to come back to all the sounds that are in your environment and to the feeling of the weight of your body. Whatever position you're in, notice exactly where your body's resting against what's underneath it. Tune into the feeling of pressure at each of the contact points where your weight is resting and see, is it possible for more of your weight to rest? Can you get heavier against whatever's underneath you? Could you let the eyes themselves become softer and let all the squint go out of your eyelids? Let the jaw settle and maybe even invite a big yawn, kind of fake yawn, breathing in, hollowing shape into your throat. And see if there are any muscles anywhere in your body that could let go so that more of your weight is resting against what's under you. Tune in especially to the weight of your head, making sure you've softened the muscles in your scalp and your neck and your shoulders and your jaw and even your upper back between your shoulder blades and across your chest, where there are muscles that often have habitual tension. And feel your head could get even heavier. And know that it often takes 20 minutes or more for all mammals to put the real weight of their head down. It's part of our intuition, part of our instinct for how to keep ourselves safe. We stay a little bit vigilant when we first lie down. We're just checking. Am I really safe? Is it really okay? So, this might be the moment where you finally have a whole body slump and melt your muscles until your body feels like a warm puddle of honey on the floor, spreading in every direction, flattening toward the earth, releasing any responsibilities that might be kicking around in the intellect or gripping in the guts. And if possible, while you soften like that, maximally draping the muscles and flesh over the bony structure of your skeleton. Also, forget everything you know. Do your best to forget everything you know. Forget the name of where you are and forget your own name. Forget your age and your gender and forget your people and forget your story just for a moment. You can have it all back after. But just for now, be like you were when you were 10 days old or some other young age. Imagine perfectly diapered and fed and content, a version of you that didn't know its name yet. That version of you that had no idea you were even a separate self. As a baby, you did notice sound and you did notice temperature. You noticed the vibe in a room. So let yourself notice anything you would have noticed as a baby, but you wouldn't have known the name of what makes the sounds you hear. You didn't know your own name and you didn't know your mom as a separate being from yourself. You just knew this intersection of sensation that is and remains your location, always easily identifiable. In other words, you can always find yourself right here at the intersection of everything you feel right now, not the story about why you feel that way, but just exactly as it is in this moment in your inner landscape. There you are, just being who you find yourself to be in this moment. And even if your thoughts come rushing back in, as mine used to do, this was a little bit challenging for me because again and again I would realize I was thinking about something in the future or the past. And sometimes I would feel frustrated with myself. But try not to resent any of those thoughts. In fact, think of them as wayward children of yours. Just scoop them in, hug them in, love them just like the good ones, like a preschool teacher, even the most disruptive child. In fact, that child you might invite to sit with you so that it really gets the attention it needs. Whatever in you is kicking from the inside. Maybe it's that voice of the self-critic. Maybe it's a feeling of regret, what you should have done or how it should have been. We all have something inside of us that's just a little bit more pokey, a little bit more aggravating than the rest of the way we feel. Whatever that is, hug it in. If it's your vicious inner critic who's constantly telling you all the bad things about yourself, just give it a little kiss on the head. Remind it of its stature. It's just one of your many voices. It's not the ruler. It's not the one who knows the truth. It's just one of those voices inside of you, and it doesn't threaten you. You can hug it in and let it be here, and it might go on blabbering about how you're not good enough, or you're too small, or weak, or you're not smart, or you're not talented, or worthy, or all of those common themes. It might just sit there blabbering about it, but you don't have to give it the power of believing it. You just recognize that's how it feels. It's allowed to have its own truth. And it's right there alongside the part of you that recognizes your value. You might think of things people who you love have told you over time. You're so beautiful, or you're so funny, or you're so good at bringing people together, or the food you make is so delicious, or you make beautiful things, or you just have a great vibe, or people love the way you smell, or the softness of your skin, or your choice of palette or textures. All of that's kicking around inside of you too. When you integrate, it means you're letting all the ways you feel, even about yourself, come together so that you can simultaneously hold in one hand the very highest opinion of yourself, and in the other hand, the way you criticize yourself the harshest. And you can let them be part of the same person. One doesn't negate the other, and we all have them. This full spectrum way that we are, the way we live up to our ideals, and the ways in which we fail our intentions. And what I've come to feel is that the most crucial item on my to-do list is just to come to this place where I'm allowing the truth about where I am and how I am. And that this is the only place from which I can begin. This is the starting place of anything, any healing, any growth, any processing, any conversation that needs to happen, anything I've got to get done. It all begins here by letting myself land where I really am and increasing my tolerance just to feel the truth about it, the whole way it is. And the tools that make it easier are the senses. Like Alan Watts said, at least once a day, go out of your mind in order to come to your senses. Only I would say, come to your senses in order to go out of your mind. Anytime the mind is poking you again with words, indulge in a sound, or bring that essential oil closer to your nose, or feel the warm, cozy way your body has gotten as you allowed it to relax with the support of comfortable blankets and pillows. In fact, comfort and ease is like a nutrient in your body. So even if you're uncomfortable somewhere, find a part of you that is comfortable. And imagine a color that comfort feels like. And imagine it's a light that's that color that can grow, a light that's glowing in that comfortable part of you that can glow even more brightly and shine into the rest of you. As if the comfortable part of you could teach the rest of your body how to receive that vibration of comfort and ease, like a nutrient that your body needs. And one of the most amazing tools for accessing comfort is your own self-touch. So you might place a hand on your heart or a hand on your belly. Maybe even just take the tip of the tongue over the roof of the mouth. A subtle touch. It could be a wiggle of your toes to feel that very delicate between the toe skin. You might brush the palm over your belly or your heart, creating sensation so that you can tune into it. And I find if I imbibe my touch with affection, just imagining affection coming from my hand to my body, it's ever more powerful. Have an affectionate little snuggle with your own form. And do your best to feel that this mammal body, this is your companion animal. This is like a mystical creature that was given to you at birth, the best birthday gift that you'll ever receive. This most complex and exquisite expression of spirit meeting matter. This mammal Like a dog or a cat, it needs pats and rubs. It needs snuggles. It needs good food and it needs enough water. It needs a warm, cozy place to sleep and it needs community. It needs tribe. It needs a flock or a pack or a pod, just like all the animals do, or at least all the mammals do. Feel this body as your dependent, at least for right now. Imagine that this is your companion mammal and you're just deciding to make it feel really good by giving it a snuggle. Notice this mammal, your body, likes particular touch. Mine likes the pressure of a palm, for instance, coming down the arm. But some bodies really like the feeling of the fingernails coming down the arm, almost like a scratch or a tickle. Notice if maybe you like the fingertip touch or you like deep pressure. Maybe your body's craving your thumb tip to press into a muscle that's sore or into a joint that's been a little achy. In fact, your body might like a whole range of touch, or it might just enjoy the presence of a warm palm resting in stillness. For instance, if you rest your palm on your belly and then breathe, you'll be able to feel both the warmth and the weight of the palm on your belly by feeling through the belly skin. And you can feel the rise and fall of the belly by feeling through the palm skin. And if you'll just tune into the intersection between the feeling of your body receiving your touch and the feeling of touching your body, you come to a kind of paradox that confounds the intellect and can blast you right out of the smaller little circles of superficial thought. Feel that you are what's felt, and as well, you are who is feeling it. And this is a paradox that's true beyond just this snuggle with your body. It's true in the world. You are what's felt as well as who's feeling it. Tuning into this brings us closer to the truth. Some of the forms of touch I've discovered I really enjoy are, for instance, the backs of the fingers stroking the curves of the face affectionately, almost like that lover in a rom-com might touch the chin, holding it with the intention to kiss the lips, or brush over the curve of the cheekbone or down the jawline. I noticed that I loved this and I thought, why do I love this? And I realized it's because my hand is telling my face that it sees these curves. My hand is telling my face, I see the beautiful curve of your cheek. I see the beautiful curve of the jaw. I see the beautiful softness of the lips or the skin. And you might take your first finger and just travel down the bridge of your nose and touch the tip of the finger to the tip of the nose, telling yourself whatever you wish someone would tell you. Like, you're so cute. You're so special. You're so unique. You're so powerful. And you are so just in the right place at the right time of your life, poised to take flight or to dive deep or whatever it is, to roll up your sleeves, poised for this new chapter of your life. At the equinox, we're marking a shift into this new season of our lives. It's so exciting for us. It encourages growth. We see it everywhere. The plants grow, the spirit expands. And this goes with some acknowledgement that of whatever you might be calling in, you and your body together here, snuggling with each other, acknowledging how it is. Just what are you calling in? What would you like to invite to join you and your body in your experience of this life? Not reaching out of the moment to do it, but rather calling that experience into this moment. In other words, sometimes I'll think of the purr of a kitten because the vibration of a kitten's purr to me feels like love. I'll never forget the first time I felt a kitten purring in my ear. I was 6 years old and the cat had had kittens and I was asleep. And one of the kittens came up to my ear and just poked its little furry nose in my ear and purred and woke me up that way. And I'll never forget the tingling that went through my whole body and the feeling of waking up in love with this tiny furry creature. So when I conjure that feeling, I'm inviting that delight and that love and that 100% exuberant joy into my experience of this moment, reminding my body that that's possible, inviting it in. And you can do that with anything. You might like to invite in purpose. And maybe you're feeling, but I don't know what purpose feels like. How do I invite that in? And you know what the feeling is that you're craving, even if you haven't felt it yet. Conjure it. And this is where our imagination, which is the crown jewel of the human brain, the ability to conjure something that is not yet here in the world, this is the crown jewel of our human brain. That people could imagine flying before people could fly is why people can now fly. So trust yourself to imagine whatever is not yet in your life that you crave, even if you can't name it, even if you don't know how to visualize it. Feel almost like you do when you're looking into the darkness, waiting for your eyes to adjust. That you know something will become clear. Gazing into the infinite of potential with that same way of just noticing whatever begins to emerge from the murky darkness, whatever begins to clarify. And in this way, you can manifest beginning right here in your stillness, even on those days when you just don't feel up to it, when you just don't feel up to whatever the work is of your life. You can give yourself permission just to come here to this space where you've created a soft, comfortable place to be, where you've created a psychic permission, allowing yourself to feel exactly how it is, letting down all of the ways you might have been braced against the moment, gripped, trying not to feel what's there to feel, shouldering yourself against reality. You can soften all of that and let it all swoosh back in, landing right where you really are with that softening slump of all the muscles and flesh, especially the eyes and whatever holds the head up. Welcome in life as it is, and then conjure whatever you'd like to invite. And this may take you 5 minutes on some days, or this may take you 3 hours on some days. giving yourself permission to shift positions whenever you need to. Maybe letting the knees go out to the side, or letting the hips turn one direction or the other, or maybe you feel that urge for a morning stretch. But whatever animation may happen, let it come from the body. In other words, don't feel that at any point you need to tell your body to do something like a stretch or a movement or an exercise. In this practice, it's all about receiving everything that comes in through your senses from the outside world, like sound and smell and light and color, but also from the inside world, all of those feelings in the inner landscape and whatever you might see with your eyes closed. You're receiving the moment through your senses. And if one of your senses tells you the body craves movement, well, then allow yourself to move in whatever way the body craves, which may surprise you. It may not be a way you've ever moved before. There may be like a little flutter of the feet and then plop, no more movement. You may all of a sudden feel like moving every limb in your body and shake it around and then no movement. Or you might want to just wiggle one arm in the air and then let it relax. Anything you poke in the air, your arms and your legs, when you poke them in the air and give them a wiggle, you jumpstart the lymph. So anytime you have that craving, which might feel funny, trust it. It's doing something. Poking a leg in the air and wiggling it around means the blood that was stagnating near the feet, the ankles, and backs of the knees where the lymph nodes are can be freed. The blood and the lymph can flow. Or you might feel like moving some of your pillows and blankets out of the way just to extend flat on the floor. There are literally limitless ways that the body might ask you to change shape. Or it might be saying, no, no, shh, don't listen to her. We're not moving. And if your body is begging you not to move, then please listen to it and know that sometimes we just need to be still, even if we're not sleeping, especially when we're not sleeping, because we are in theta brain waves when we're still and we're meandering, floating around on the inner winds, not using the intellect and words, but just seeing and feeling and hearing and being. And in that state of theta brain waves, much healing can occur, almost as if it was outside the rules of time and space. Healing that would take way longer in our waking state can happen immediately. So if you feel like staying still, trust it. And at some point, the movement might take you into your tush poked in the air, or your knees hugged into the armpits like happy baby, or your legs reached out to the side, or you might like to just roll a little side to side on your back. And any of that is fine. Any of that feeling of wanting to be in movement is a natural part of the integration. And there's a way of moving that might be unfamiliar to you that's connected to intuitive movement, although what I know about intuitive movement is it often includes more movement than what I'm talking about. But it just means that there may be shapes and there may be patterns and there may be dynamic rhythms of movement that you feel called into. But what's really tricky is that once you start moving, your mind might try to bring you into your habit of movement. Once you do something that's familiar, the mind will say, oh, I know this one. Then we go over here. And it might start to take you down the path of something that you recognize as a warm up routine or something you learned in a class. And I would just encourage you, as best as you can, stay away from the familiar. I mean, it's not that you can't go there. If the body asks for it, of course, do whatever the body asks for. But don't just get pulled into a pattern of habit with movement. And this is part of somatic healing. Somatic just really means of the body. And so when we're enlisting the body and all of its incredible intelligence to help us heal, our biggest struggle is to keep convincing the mind that it's not its moment to jump in and do what it's best at, which is put things on a linear timeline and tell us what to do in the form of action sequence. Anytime you feel the mind is grabbing hold of this session, you always have these 3 easy steps, no matter where you are in your day or in your practice. If you feel you're getting whipped up by the mind, just pause and have a long, slow exhale out through your mouth. Feel where your body's touching what's under you, and that could be even if you were sitting or standing up. And then let in all sensation, all the sound, all the light, even if your eyes are closed, see the brightness or the color that's visible, all the temperature, all the texture. If you're moving, feeling the movement. So those three things to pay attention to save my life on a regular basis. And what I mean is they prevent me from saying things I regret. They prevent me from blustering around my day when I'm out of calibration and all I would do is just lose things and be late and waste myself. Just exhale through the mouth, land on the earth, feeling where your body's connected to that support from under you, and let in sensation. And the truth is, if you really pay attention to even just sound, there's enough sound to take up your whole brain. So there's no space left over for thinking. If you're really dedicated to the moment, there's enough stimulus in the moment to pull you out of your thoughts. And then physically, if you're in stillness, the 2 questions I come back to again and again are, is there any other muscle I could soften? Any other habit of tension I could release, like the jaw, the tailbone, the eyebrows, the eyelids, the guts, the stiffness in the rib cage. And the second question, is there anything left to feel that I haven't let myself feel? And then once I'm in movement, the question is, now that I'm in this new shape, is there anywhere that the breath could go where it hadn't been going before? And is there any place in my body that I feel something now that I didn't before I made this shape? And so having those questions with us in the movement practice can help slow us down. When you make a new shape, just ask yourself, where could the breath go in this shape that it wasn't going as I was before? And is there anything to feel in this shape that I wasn't feeling before? And honor that feeling like it was somebody you're meeting for the first time. Oh, hello, feeling in the back of the thigh. And just like you would with a new person, be curious. Oh, where does this feeling come from? Is it rooted at the sit bone or the back of the knee? Is it hot or cold or sharp or dull? Does it change as I observe it, or does it stay static? And then you'll notice the body will ask you for a different shape, or it'll ask you to stop moving. And as you continue on, just Either in stillness, asking yourself, is there another muscle you could soften? Another habit of tension you could fall out of to discover your more innocent, authentic, truest self? Is there something else you could feel that you hadn't let yourself feel? Maybe you were afraid to feel it. Maybe one time in your life you felt it and it seemed to take you underwater for a month. So you hope never to feel it again. But the truth is that those feelings, if we must feel them, then we must feel them. And there is no way around them. The only way out of them is through them. But the good news is that when we really show up on purpose to feel whatever's there to feel, they pass. The feelings are processed so much more quickly than when we avoid them. And if there was a time in your life when it seemed like you got clobbered by a depression or an anxiety that stagnated you in your life and you never want to go back there again, I would suggest that often it's the paralysis of trying not to feel it that makes it last so long and makes it seem so heavy. And I want to acknowledge that some people experience mental health issues that do require medication, and I honor people who are receiving that kind of support. And that this isn't to replace that, but it's in conjunction with any other type of support you may be receiving for your mental health and for your emotional health and for the integration of your body health, your mental health, your emotional health, and your spiritual health. What I've found is that no matter what practice I may think I need, like asana, yoga, physical practice, or breath exercises, or anything else, none of it seems to work the way it's supposed to unless I also am practicing this. And this just means every day taking some time to feel how it really is. Literally carving out a space on the floor where I can just flop around, let my legs go this way and that. Let my spine arch and round, and you may find at some point that you feel inclined to press yourself up away from the floor. And that's fine too. You don't have to stay down. You could be on hands and knees, or you could end up in a child's pose. If you do come away from the floor, notice that you're still in relationship with the floor if you press away from the floor. In other words, that now your hands and your shins will be in contact with the earth. So you could tune into that contact for support and for a sense of grounding. And if you did come to hands and knees, you might just sway side to side. Or if you sat up, you can just rock yourself back and forth. Or even if you're still lying down, you might try rocking. I suggest rocking because many nervous systems find a kind of soothing from rocking. And yet our culture shames any sort of irrational movement. I knew someone once who really felt good when she shook her hands like this, shook her wrists, and she would get her whole body shaking, and it just felt so good. And she wanted to do it when she was listening to music. And she was exuberant and joyful until she would notice people looking at her. And then it was this shameful contraction and trying to stop her body from doing this horribly shameful thing that it was doing. Or my beautiful niece who used to love to run around on all fours, and she loved running on all fours. And it was this way of her body expressing itself until it became something that people asked about. Why is she doing that? What is that? That's weird. So maybe there's something in you like that, some kind of movement that you, an affinity for a rhythm or a shape that your body was born with. And if that's true, try and find that. Recover, remember this access to joy. I have one myself where when I was 7, I remember standing outside the community house across the street from my house, dancing, looking at my own shadow. And I loved the shape of my shadow. I could see my spine, my hips, my shoulders moving. And foolishly, I thought to myself, well, I'll be able to see if anyone comes up from behind me because I'll see their shadow. And of course, a group of neighborhood kids saw me doing it. And oh, they laughed. Oh, they giggled and shamed me and called me a weirdo or whatever else that I really was and still am. And I was careful not to do that in public for a while. But now I'm happy to do it in public again, and I really don't care what it means if it means I'm weird. So I encourage you to rediscover the kinds of movements that just feel good. You might want to waggle yourself like a dog that got wet. Or maybe it's something that feels familiar, like a rounding and arching of the back, cats and cows as we learn it in yoga, or big barrel rolls of your rib cage. But really allow yourself any kind of movement. Maybe you want to try out that shaking of the wrists. When I saw this person who I knew who did this doing it, I went home and I tried it myself. And I could see, oh, yeah, I get why she wants to do that. We could be inspiring each other into new ways of moving just by following what our body actually asks for, instead of shaming ourselves out of those movements. One of my favorite stillness positions after some movement is this supported child's pose, just pulling pillows right into the hip crease, lifting the belly up and over to lie down. You can always put a blanket or a pillow for your head. Child's pose is called wisdom pose by some people. And really, for me, this whole practice is about invoking the wisdom of the child within us. That part of us who was alive and well until some kind of culture, familial or neighborhood culture, scared it away, scared it back toward its origin. Some part of ourselves that might actually be the most healing part of ourselves. And that's what this practice for me is about, reconnecting to that childlike innocence, the way that we can just be who we are, and through being who we are, be reconnected to what feeds us. So, one of those ways for me is movements. And I'm going to share some of the ones that I do, not because you should do the same ones, but because sometimes if I'm moving in the way that moves me, it could inspire your body. For instance, from hands and knees, stepping the left leg back and reaching the right arm up, taking a big breath, opening from wrist to wrist, and then moving my right arm in a big circle, up and back and down and forward and up, going through the range of motion in that right shoulder. As a woman over 40, I know that I am in the population at the highest risk of frozen shoulder syndrome. And going through the range of motion in the shoulder helps prevent that. Then I like to keep that left leg back, but put the right hand down, drop the left heel, and lift the left arm up. And this is a balance pose. Pressing the right shin and foot down helps me balance as I take the left arm overhead. From the left pinky edge of the foot rooting into the floor to the left pinky finger reaching overhead as I look up under the left armpit and have a big breath, opening the whole left side body. And then back to hands and knees and just whatever feels good. Hip circles, cats and cows, child's pose. And then from hands and knees, the right leg back. And pressing the right hand down, right shoulder out of the ear, left arm up, spreading from wrist to wrist, opening, widening, and then taking the left arm back and down and forward and up. Breathing in as I reach up and breathing out as I reach down. Again, full range of motion in that left shoulder. And then right leg stays back, put the left hand down, right heel down, right arm up. Again, it's a balance pose, left shin and foot pressing into the earth to help balance. Spread between the wrists, getting wide in the heart, and then take the right arm overhead, palm facing the floor. Looking up under the armpit, stretching open. And you are free, even if you're semi doing what I'm doing, if you feel the urge to modify, to swivel, to lift, to add on, go ahead. And then back to hands and knees. Rounding and arching or swiveling or rocking, whatever feels good. And then I like to sit in a child's pose with a block under my brow line. If you don't have a block, you can just interlace your fingers and rest your brow line on your first finger that's on top, making a kind of straight line with the first finger, or you can use the edge of a block. Either way, as you roll side to side across right underneath the brow line, you'll find some pressure points there. And if there's a lot of sensation, you can roll slowly over the pressure point, and that pressure between your forehead and your finger or your forehead and the block will help you massage out the adhesion in the fascia there. I find if I'm especially serious, I've been furrowing my brow, I've been focusing, then I might need some extra massage here. You can stay with that, or I like to walk my hands over to the left from this child's pose position, sitting the right hip down and back, stretching through the right pinky finger and breathing open the whole right side body as I look a little to the right or to the left. If you look to the right, looking under the right armpit, breathing open the right side, or looking to the left under the left armpit, dropping the right side ribs toward the floor. Any shapes you're doing, notice where the sweet spot is. Where's that stretch feeling? And then just take a big breath into the feeling of stretch. And when you're ready, come back to the center, up on your forearms with the elbows under the shoulders, bowing the head. And if you have any neck injuries, put something under the head, either a block or stack your fists and rest your head. Or if you don't have neck injury, you can let the weight of the head hang to pull some traction in the neck spine, helping create length there. Big breath in through the nose and let it out through the mouth. And from there, walk your hands over to the right, stretching the left pinky forward and to the right as you sit the left hip down and back and open the spaces between the left ribs, twisting a little bit and breathing big breaths into wherever the resistance is, wherever that sweet spot is. And again, back to the center when you're ready, to this shape I call humble bunny pose. And I think of this shape as a place I come to rest on the shins and the forearms and bow my head and my heart toward the earth, just to feel the mammal aspect of my body. That just like every other mammal on the earth, my body's hope for this lifetime is that I'll eat good food and drink plenty of water and live in a comfortable place, and that I'll have community, maybe that I'll procreate. Those are the things that this mammal body cares about. And if today is just full of food and drink and movement and friends or family or whatever, my body is just as happy. To recognize that you have every right to this simple mammal life, even though your spirit encourages you toward a purpose. Take a moment to give yourself permission just to be a humble bunny on the earth. And then from here, you can come forward if you like, all the way down onto your belly. Let the upper body relax and just put the forehead on the earth for a moment while you engage the legs, reaching back through 10 toes, spreading the feet wide, and maybe even picking up your right leg and then your left leg and walking them back away from your hips, wiggling a little side to side.
Spread the toes, press the tops of the feet into the earth, just activating the legs. Hug your hips to the ground, but roll your inner thighs toward the sky. Then bring your palms to the floor by your middle ribs.
And breathing in, peel your upper body up away from the floor. If you are in a pregnant body, you can do this same practice by putting a pillow under the hips and coming onto the forearms. And again, the actions are spreading the toes, pressing the hips and the feet into the earth, rolling the inner thighs up toward the sky as you hug the hips to the earth, and then pulling the heart forward and up, tip of the tongue to the roof of the mouth, lifting up through the top of the head. And this is a good variation for anyone who feels they'd like a more modified version. Breathe and open across the armpits, lengthen the back of the neck, lift up through the heart. And then you can come back to hands and knees and have a couple hip circles, cats and cows, and maybe a hands and knees twist, dropping one arm down under you, letting the hips stay up, landing on the side of your head and shoulder. And then when you feel ready, come back down on your back and have nothing under you, no pillow under your head, no pillow under your body, with the knees bent and the feet flat on the floor. Pressing down into the inner feet and the backs of the shoulders. On an inhale, lift your hips and your ribs up. And as you exhale, lower the hips and the ribs down. Keep moving like that with your breath. The backs of the shoulders and the inner feet heavy as you lift the outer hips on the inhale and let the hips come down on the exhale. And really roll up onto the tops of the shoulders so the ribs lift toward your chin as you breathe in. And then exhaling, let the ribs come back down too. Feel the back of the head stays a little bit pressured into the floor, even as you lift your chest towards your chin. Last two on the inhale, lifting, on the exhale, lowering. It's up to you if you want to roll up your back and roll back down, or if you want to lift and lower your spine in a flat shape. And then once you land, pause, let the knees touch each other and separate your feet. The shins in a teepee shape. And again, just feel, let in sound. Big breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. And then let your knees windshield wiper side to side. Dropping the knees to the right and the knees to the left, keeping the feet about mat distance apart, or at least hip distance apart, which nutates the sacroiliac joint, the connection between the hips and the spine. That means it's just moving that joint for you, helping to create synovial fluid in the joint through dynamic movement, which is movement where you go in and out of a shape, like we just did in the back bend. And like we're going to do here, you might want a little something under your head, a little pillow height, something under your head. Then have a breath in. And when you exhale, bring your face and your knees together. And as you inhale, release your head to the pillow and open your belly. And then again, exhale, squeeze into a tiny little ball. And as you inhale, relax the head and open the belly. If you're pregnant, just bring your knees in toward the armpits instead of toward your face. Exhaling to coil in, inhaling to release the head to the pillow and open the belly. And this is dynamic movement for the whole spine. So when you just coil in and out of this rounded shape, or as we did just before, in and out of the arched shape, you're lubricating the spine with synovial fluid. So good to do 5 to 10 of these every day, just to keep the spine fluid. When you land, let your feet rest, let your knees tent together, let your head be heavy. Just breathe and feel.
For many years, I taught really active yoga, and I still do teach some active yoga, but more and more, this is the yoga that interests me. The yoga that's accessible to everyone. A kid could do it, and an older person could do it. Even if you're only able to breathe, just the yoga of feeling and being and breathing to me has become the most important practice. After a few breaths in that pause, if you'd like, you might catch the feet, soles of the feet together and draw them toward the belly button, that Baddha Konasana shape on the back, or extend the legs side to side, that Upavista Konasana shape, but on the back. Or cross the shins and reach for your feet and draw them toward your knees, like Sukhasana, but on the back. Or you might just poke your legs up in the air, wiggle them around, or draw them toward you like a final forward fold. And then when you feel like you've done whatever you needed to do, there might be some final shape that your body's called to. But whenever you're done, again, just land in a relaxed position on the floor, what we call Shavasana, and which is really just a tiny little integration session for our integration session, so that everything you felt in this last hour and a half can find a place to land in you. And that the healing you've received by your own breath and movements and by the space you gave to your form and to your mind, all that healing can drop into the deeper layers of your being now. Again, listen to your body about the shape. If your body wants a little more support or needs a little more space, let it have it. Maybe you want to cover the eyes or smell your essential oil again. And then when you feel settled, have a big breath in through the nose and let it out through your mouth, long and slowly, tapering at the end. Landing right where you are. Taking a few moments in silence and stillness. Shavasana. If your mind starts to float away out of the moment, have another exhale through the mouth and feel your body deflate toward the earth as you tune into sound and the brightness that you see. At any time you need to, you can land deeper than that movement of your mind by following the exhale. Notice the weight of your body resting heavily where you are. Make sure your eyes are soft. If it feels good, you might bring a palm to the belly or to the heart. So, as you're lying there, looking around in the inner space, maybe you notice something you had never noticed before, some way of feeling, of being you. You may sense that you have a deeper intimacy with your body and with your breath, and with yourself by taking some time just to dedicate your attention to how it really is for you. You may have some thoughts that you want to mark down when you come out of this practice. Sometimes it's in creating this stillness and spaciousness that I actually remember what's really important to go do. Or you may have some reflection, something you want to note so that you don't forget what you saw or experienced in this relaxed space. And you may not feel like moving yet. And I encourage you to really honor that if that's how it is for you. You may not feel like moving yet. And that as you transition out of this practice, one of the more important things is that you're listening to your body on the way out. So that as you re enter the flow of your day, you're not abandoning this companion mammal, but more feeling like you're on such a good team, that your body is your best buddy and that you can depend on it. And you might even want to offer it some gratitude. Thanks, body. Thanks for being here for me the way you have been this whole time. Thanks for going through what you've been through. And you may even have an apology for it. Many of us have asked our bodies to do a lot. We might apologize for when we insisted that the body go with no sleep or work harder than it really thought it could. And maybe that inspires a sense of respect for what a powerful being this body is and how lucky we are to share our lives with it. Whatever you have on your agenda for today, wherever you're going, whatever you'll be doing, I hope that at least once in your day and maybe once every day, you'll take a moment to land where you are. Have a long, slow exhale through the mouth and go out of your mind by coming to your senses. Just have that sense of arriving back where you really are with how it really is to be who you find yourself to be right now. Letting go of an expectation that it should be some other way, so you can start from the only place it's possible to begin, right where you are, at just the right place and just the right time.
And if you know me, you know I don't like to end these sessions because I hope that when I leave the screen, you don't just stop and start bossing your body around, telling it what to do, all the errands, and go get me that and take me here. When I leave the screen, I hope you'll take over, holding space for this precious intimacy with your best buddy, your body, and that nourishing force of the breath that's been with you for your whole life. I hope I see you again in another Zoom room or even in person soon. And until then, I wish you well. Sybil Buck, signing off from the New Paradigm. Bye.